I'm ready for a show about the path with
Yes.
Ventress and Quinlan. And if you think about it, the path didn't just work with, getting Jedi and Force sensitive to
hmm
safety. But let's play with that for a second. Who
hmm
is a child that needs to be hidden and get to safety who may or may not have a high midichlorian count?
Right. It's all connected.
And this is how the Bad Batch die, and Omega's the sole survivor.
Oh no. Welcome back to This is the Wayseekers, a podcast for Star Wars fans by Star Wars fans. My name's Austin SWE. I'm here with my co-host Scotty Holiday, as always, talking about the Bad Batch once again. Scotty, how you feeling this week? Two-parter episode. How was it?
I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I'm usually not a clone girly, but this week
Really?
I was. I mean, yeah, but not like oh my god, I love the clones, but like this week I was like, oh my god, I love the clones. So
I guess we never actually got to talk in depth about the clones because I always kind of took you as someone who would love them. So I'm actually glad to talk about this clone heavy episode today. But before we get into that, This is the Wayseekers releases every Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time during Bad Batch season, talking about the Bad Batch. So make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or your podcast platform so you never miss out on these bad bitches Bad Batch content. All right, Scotty, what episodes of the Bad Batch are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about episode 6, Infiltration, and episode 7, Extraction.
Yes, two-parter, double. I don't fucking know.
We're double fisting the Bad Batch this week.
Okay. Vulgar as fuck for no reason.
I want to ask you a question to start off our discussion.
Okay. Something new. I like this.
Yeah. So what I want to know is which two-parter do you think was better, season 2 or season 3?
Okay, this is funny because it kind of lines up with a question I wanted to ask you, but I'll answer your question first. The two-parter that I liked the most. Ooh, that's a difficult question. I guess I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that because last time I remember the impact was much bigger because I feel like that was really the biggest step up for the Bad Batch. So I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, the Bad Batch is good now. But I feel like this time around it was really good, but it's like these last few episodes have just been fantastic, and so has these two episodes. So it didn't come as a surprise, I guess. But I really think this one I enjoyed the most because for me, I'm a clone girly, specifically the
Mhm.
trio that we see later on in Rebels between Rex and Wolf and Gregor, and
Mhm.
seeing Rex and Gregor together like we've seen already, and then Wolf kind of, that moment, which I'm super excited to talk about that. But
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad that you're a clone girly because, like I said, do I love the clones in the Clone Wars? Yes. Am I super into the clones?
mhm.
No. But I
Yeah.
still love them. So of course for me, I'm gonna say season 2's two-parter. But I will say that both of these two-parters for both season 2 and 3 were different and good in different ways. So I
Yeah.
loved the politics of season 2, but I loved the brotherhood and the meaningful moments of growth with the clones
Yeah.
in season 3's two-parter. So I'm excited to talk about these episodes with you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But what I wanted to ask you is in previous episodes, you joked about having screeners and seeing these episodes early, which we all know you haven't. But then you tweeted something the other day talking about happy Bad Batch Eve, everyone. After season two's amazing two-parter, I can't wait to see what season 3 is going to bring tomorrow. Hopefully involves politics again. And then you put a picture or a gif of Senator Chuchi. And so I want to know what it's like to be gifted with the gift of prophecy.
Well, the Jedi look down upon foresight, so I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. They do, but that's besides the point. I
Right.
I fulfilled my own prophecy, and that's the thing.
hmm
I said I hope there would be politics again, and they
First
gave us
scene.
politics. We got a
Yeah.
little bit of politics, and with literally Senator Chuchi again, who
Right.
I have always loved, but just fell in love with in the season 2 arc. So I love
Uh-huh.
that we got kind of a continuation of that right at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And seeing her interaction with Senator Singh, I really love, for me, like my favorite Rebels episode, or one of my favorite, they're all my favorite, is the episode where they kind of follow up on the Clone Wars. And you
Hmm.
see Rex and the droids kind of have
Yeah.
to come together after the war. And we got a little glimpse of that here because Senator Singh, the senator who we see in season 1, episode 10 of The Bad Batch, is now interacting, having a meeting with Senator Chuchi, who were on opposite sides of the war during the Clone Wars, and seeing them
Hmm.
come together talking about how they have a common enemy now and they want similar things and their people want similar things, which is just freedom, just
Yeah, from
is
oppression.
that so much to ask for?
It's
And so
crazy because if we think back to the Clone Wars too, where
mhm,
Padme went and met with her friend Mina Bonteri, who was a separatist senator, her and Ahsoka had to sneak into separatist
right.
space. They had to like sneak onto Raxus. Like nobody
Yeah,
could even know that they were going. And I mean, it's not like Senator Singh and Senator Chuchi were just meeting out in the open either, but
right,
they didn't have that relationship from prior where Padme and Mina Bonteri did. They weren't friends before,
right.
but Senator Chuchi specifically wanted Senator Singh to come. And I love that, Rex and the clones still had her back throughout
Mhm.
it. And yeah, it was a nice little
Yeah.
political beginning, a little political thriller, if I
Yeah.
might.
Yeah, and I like your use of the word beginning there because this is definitely all going to come together. They're talking about leaders, and
Mhm.
I almost, since season 1, everybody's been asking, is Ahsoka going to be in the Bad Batch? Is Ahsoka going to be in the Bad Batch? And honestly, I've always been like, "No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a place for
Yeah.
her. I don't really want her to. Because at this point, like, especially at that time when we were talking about it season 2, season 1, she was in everything. They just put Ahsoka in everything. It was so much Ahsoka, Ahsoka, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And so they could leave her out, but then I almost got to wondering when these two were talking about not having the leaders to kind of do what they want and go up against the Empire and Emperor Palpatine. I was like, "Ooh, is this like gonna kind of tie into one, the Clone Rebellion, but two, what we see with Ahsoka and Bail Organa in the Ahsoka novel, and then I guess also Tales of the Jedi now? Is that all going to come together? And is that where maybe Ahsoka would fit into this? I don't know. It's kind of the only place I've seen her be able to fit at all. So I
That's
guess I wanted to
that's
bring that up.
crazy. I never thought of her whenever the political stuff comes
Hmm.
into play, I don't ever think of Ahsoka,
Right.
just because I don't think of her as a politician.
Right.
And in kinda talking about it right now, it kinda just popped into my head. There's this empty space that the people who are against Palpatine are trying to fill. They're trying to find this leader, and I feel like,
Mm.
who would have filled that space?
Oh.
Padme.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would
Exactly.
have been the one to step up and speak out.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Bale was right by her side, Mon Mothma was
Mhm.
right by her side, Senator Chuchi would have been right by her side too, Senator Singh,
Yeah.
I'm sure, would have agreed. But, later on, we saw in Rebels where Mon Mothma was the one to finally speak out against
Mm.
Palpatine, and that's what officially started the rebellion. So, at
Right.
the time, I was like, "Ooh, could they be talking about Mon Mothma?" But
Hmm.
I don't even think at this point and what we've seen from Mon and Andor so far,
Hmm.
she is not ready to step into that role. And
Yeah.
I almost wonder if she and now I'm getting real off topic, but I'm like, I wonder if she ever really was ready for that role, or if she felt like somebody had to do it and nobody else was
Right.
stepping up because there was no more Padme. So it was like, who's the next best
Hmm.
thing? Okay, Mon Mothma. Because Bale, I don't
Yeah.
know why Bale didn't do it, but Bale's
Hmm.
Bale's a sweet dad. Like he
Right.
he
Right.
just
Right.
wants everyone to he wants the best for everybody. But
Hmm.
that doesn't always make the best, like, I guess, leader.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
oh god, you should cut that out because the leader should want the best for everybody. He's a lover. Bale is a
Yeah.
lover. He's not necessarily a fighter, but he's
Okay.
always going to be in your corner.
Yeah, 100%. But also, mind you, there doesn't really have to be one leader of the rebellion at this time, just what
Yeah,
their little cell is going to be, because we know all
true.
the cells that come together. And that's why Mon Mothma doesn't have to really step into this leadership role of the entire rebellion up until
You're
like
right.
5 years before Andor. But
You're right.
it's interesting to think about because I still think that there is a huge possibility because we know Bail Organa and Ahsoka are together around this time somewhere after she like kills the Inquisitor and
Either way, we're seeing seeds of rebellion planted
yeah.
at this point in the Bad
Hmm.
Batch, and I love it. And there's even some more little nods later in the episode that I'll bring up, but we'll
Right,
get
right,
there.
right. Yeah, all these little teases. And speaking of teases, we've been teased of these clone assassins
Oh
for so
yeah.
long since season 2 and now the trailers and we're getting more information. And kind of the whole thing going on with this episode was there was an assassin that tried to kill them. Rex and the other clones take him in, bring the Bad Batch in, and then another assassin comes after them. And this assassin has a lot of emphasis on him. And I really think that kind of gives some validity to all these theories we've been having prior of like, who is this character? Why are they so important? Like, why does this assassin get so much emphasis compared to the others? I have some theories, but I want to ask you what you think first.
Well, I hate him already. Oh god, like they just
Yeah,
make me angry, and that's a good
right.
thing. Like you want your antagonists to make you angry, and
Yeah,
you want to not like them. So he's doing his job.
right,
However, by the end of the episode, I was like, God damn it, just die.
right.
Please, just no more.
Yeah,
But it doesn't matter because as we saw, like Rex and the other clones captured one, and then at Mount Tantus, they just activated another clone
right.
assassin. So it's just like, all
Yeah,
right, that one's
they're just
down.
going to keep
Next.
coming. Yep. They're
And
just
they're
going to keep them coming.
and they're so wiped and devoid of any personality that they might as well just be the same person.
Right, right. Well, that's what's interesting is this one, even though it was kind of a fucked up personality, this one did seem to have a little bit like of a real something bigger that he hated Crosshair for,
Yeah,
other than just what they were fighting about.
brother.
Right. And see, I have this theory that the assassin that got all this emphasis that was fighting Crosshair, I know a lot of people have theorized that it's Tech, thinking that there's a lot of similarities to Tech. I think that this assassin has a lot of similarities to Crosshair.
Yeah.
And we saw Crosshair talking about how they tried to make him into one of those, but it didn't work. And we didn't
Mhm.
really get much explanation other than defecting is in his blood, which that
Yeah,
was a great line.
agreed.
Do you think it's possible that this assassin could be a clone of Crosshair?
Ooh,
That's my theory. There's all these moments where they both have their arms crossed, they're fighting, and think about it. Crosshair's on this redemption. How what better way to symbolize that than literally having your biggest enemy be yourself? Because now they're kind
exactly.
of set up as, this assassin wants to get, revenge on Crosshair, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big thing in these upcoming episodes. So I don't know. That's my theory. I've seen a lot of people say Tech. I don't believe it. I think Tech at this point we're done with Tech. R.I.P. But I think that's a wrap on Tech.
Yeah, no, I really like your theory. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good idea. And if we think about it, it's almost like the when Luke goes into the cave on Dagobah and he busts the mask open and it's his own
Right.
face underneath. We could get a
Yeah.
similar moment with Crosshair because we're used to the mask coming off and it's just like default
Yeah.
clone design. But if it
Right.
came off and it was Crosshair and Crosshair
Hmm.
was the one to unmask him or like crack his mask or whatever, just imagine like what that would do to his psyche in that moment. Like
Right.
that'd be like shattering. Or even if it was just, one of the other clones, one of the other Bad Batch members, God forbid it be Omega.
Oh
I
my
don't know
god.
what she'd do. She'd probably be like, she'd have compassion.
Right.
She'd be like,
Right.
Nar,
Trying
you
to
have to
save
come
him.
with us. You can
Right.
choose.
Poor Omega just wants the right thing, but whatever.
I feel like this is a good time to point out Crosshair's other little similarity, which is when Omega is on the ship on their way to Teth, and she's mimicking
Becoming
everything that he does.
right, becoming Crosshair. I loved it. And then you kind of see Hunter
Turn
getting a
around and
little
notice.
jealous. He's like, I think he's coming around. He stood up for Crosshair later in the
He
episode,
did,
but
yeah.
that was great to see. And it's interesting to see how people react differently to Crosshair's redemption because, like we've talked about in the past, Hunter, he wasn't really in the wrong for, questioning Crosshair, still being upset after,
Mhm.
before their conversation, before they talked. And now we're seeing like Hauser, he brought up good points, like,
Hauser came on hotter than Hunter, I feel like.
oh, 100%,
Hauser was ready to
100%.
brawl.
Well, because mind you, Hauser has no history with Crosshair other than the bad shit. Where it's like
Yeah.
Hunter, I'm still sure there's that layer of like, damn, that's my brother. Grew up with bro. Like,
Like, he's an asshole, but, like, he's my brother,
right,
that's just how he fucking is, like,
right,
just
right, right, right. But speaking of Teth, I thought this was funny because when we saw the trailer and we see that Ventress and Teth are both in the trailer, I was like, oh god, are they going to try to do some sort of reference to the Clone Wars movie where we see Ventress on Teth? And I was thinking, like, oh, when we see Ventress, she's going to be on Teth. And I was just so glad that those two things are not connected. And
Yeah.
the use of Teth is really interesting to me.
So cool.
Yes.
And it makes sense because so speaking of Ventress on Teth in the Clone Wars movie, when I did my, top Ventress moments, I had to go
Hmm.
back and watch a lot of the Clone Wars movie because unfortunately I
Right.
haven't watched it many times.
Hmm.
So I really appreciated Teth and like the design of it and the idea of it, the scenes in it. So it was so cool getting to see them go back to it. And it was
Hmm.
abandoned then. So it made sense
Yep.
for Rex and his group to kind of take up
Hmm.
as their base of operations. Plus,
Yeah.
like we said, it was just a great callback.
Yeah, yeah, of course, because it's like a Clone Wars sequel show, and
Hmm.
I really love just seeing the. I've talked about this in previous episodes, kind of the clone rebellion community that's kind of building up that Rex is leading. You have all these different clones. One of them named Nemec.
Yep.
Shout out Andor. I'm sure that was decided way before, but
Yeah.
it's still an interesting connection there. But no, I really love it, and I almost wonder if, and not to derail talking about these Bad Batch episodes, but we talked about Ventress eventually coming in, and you're a huge Ventress fan, so we got to bring up Ventress at some point, like we have all the
Oh,
other episodes.
that's like a
So,
given. It's no
right, right,
question.
right.
You're just doing it first, which is
Yes,
different.
exactly, exactly. Huge difference this time. So recently, Nika Futterman, the voice actress for Ventress, was at some sort of Comic Con or did some sort of interview and got to talk about Ventress coming up
Mhm.
in the Bad Batch. And she said she didn't really give us much about what the role is or what it's going to be like, other than the fact that it's apparently just a teaser for
Mhm.
what's to come. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, what does that mean? But then I see all this like Clone Rebellion stuff, and I'm like, oh, I, I think that season 3 is going to come to a satisfying conclusion, but I feel like there's going to be so much more you can tell with these clones. And I'm
Yeah.
like, is there going to be another Clone Wars sequel series other than the Bad Batch?
It's something I've wanted to talk about and started a video on. It's something
Hmm.
that we've talked about separately. I'm ready for a show about the path with
Yes.
Ventress and Quinlan. I mean, tell me you
Oh,
were
and they
not
would
getting
so be part of that.
and
The
tell me you
clones
were
would so
not
be part of it.
getting like vibes of the path and the hidden path from Jedi
Yeah.
Survivor with the operation on Teth in the monastery was giving me Seer's kind of base of operations on
Yeah.
Jeddah. And I don't know, it was just really giving me the vibes were right. And I know I was watching a Star Wars Explained video recently, and that question got brought up to them. They said they don't think we
Mm,
need a hidden path show, which valid. However,
mm.
I would love a hidden path
Yeah, I
show.
think we need a hidden
So,
path show.
I mean, if we think about it, you bring back the characters from Kenobi. You get
Yeah.
Roken, you get
Mhm,
Tala, depending on the time frame. You can have Riva, depending on the time frame. We know
mhm.
Quinlan's a part of it. Ventress is
Yeah.
not dead, so her and Quinlan, they definitely would link back up, and I'd love to see her help from time to time. Rex would
Mhm.
totally be a part of that. There's no way Ahsoka is never a part of the path. Uh,
Right.
I feel like there's
Yeah.
other characters. Seer,
Yeah, of course, the
Cordova,
whole Jedi Survivor,
Marin,
they could maybe
Cal,
tie Tantus into it from Jedi Survivor. I
Tantus?
mean, I'm sure that's gonna not Tantus,
Tantus?
Tanalore,
Hey, it's a big mountain. They're both big
all
mountains.
these Tan. But then again, that'll probably just be continued in the games. But no, yeah, I think
There's a
that's a
lot.
great idea because there's so many things. Everybody talks about how the clone of Palpatine, Rise of Skywalker stuff is what's really connecting the saga. But I do think there is a lot of emphasis on the hidden path and kind of
Mhm.
the role that plays in the rebellion. You know, it's no coincidence that it showed up in Jedi Survivor and Kenobi around the same time, meaning they were both in
Correct.
production. So it's not like one came out and was like, oh, let's reference this thing from Jedi Survivor, or, you know, let's reference this thing from Kenobi. They were in production at the same time, meaning in house, Lucasfilm is like working on this
Well, and
connective hidden
that
path.
Bad Batch season 3 was probably also in production at the same time.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if you think about it, the path didn't just work with, getting Jedi and Force sensitive to
Hmm.
safety. But let's play with that for a second. Who
Hmm.
is a child that needs to be hidden and get to safety who may or may not have a high midichlorian count?
Right. It's all connected.
And this is how the Bad Batch die, and Omega's the sole survivor,
Oh
sneaking through the
no.
path.
Oh no. I mean, there has to be something more. I feel like there's been comments from the voice actress Michelle Ang, right? That's her name.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, there's been comments from her kind of about
Oh,
Omega's future
Omega's
and
not
things like
done.
that. Yeah, you know,
Now
it's
Michelle Ang may be done playing her because 'cause they'll be like, "Oh, we're
mhm.
putting her in live action, so, fuck Michelle Ang, we
Oh
gotta get
no.
somebody else completely
No,
different."
if they do a hidden pass show, it better be animated. I don't want to
Oh, that's what I
see.
want.
Yeah.
Animated hidden path because of all these
Mhm.
characters, and I don't know
Yeah,
what it
exactly.
is. For some reason, I wanna see the Star Wars Jedi characters in animation, like Star Wars Jedi games
Yeah,
characters in animation so
that
bad.
would be
I don't
cool.
know why, but it's
Mhm.
like something on my Star Wars bucket list that I really want to see.
Right. Well, we'll have to ask our friend Deborah Wilson if she's involved in anything.
Well, she is a voice actor, so next time we talk,
Yes,
we'll have to ask her if she would do an animated show as Seer, and I'm
exactly.
sure she would be down.
Yeah. Oh, 100%
She
because
I
she's
mean,
so connected to
I
her.
was gonna say she is Seer. Seer is
Yeah.
Deborah, as Deborah is Seer.
Yeah. There's no separating. But yeah, when I saw all this clone rebellion stuff, I was like, there has to be something, especially like Wolf. You know that moment with Rex and Wolf. Which let's talk about that. Let's talk about that fucking moment because I
Yeah.
was feeling emotional. How did you
Me
feel?
me too. I was watching it in, like, the cafeteria area at work on my work
Uh.
laptop, and
Oh
I'm
no.
like, "Oh god, don't let me start crying in the middle of work in the cafeteria as I'm just staring at my laptop screen." Like, I don't care if
Right.
I cry, I'll let myself cry, but then I was like, people are gonna be like, "What the fuck are they doing over there?"
Right.
Not only am I on the work laptop, but I'm sitting there like,
I mean, it was one of those moments. I'm sure they would have understood. All you had to do was show them,
I
and they
had to
would
be
have
like,
understood.
"Look, it's Rex and Wolf," and they're
Were they
like
like,
standing. I love that moment because what
yeah,
what was the biggest part about it that really signaled it was so different than other experiences
hmm,
with between clones and Imperials is Rex put his blasters in his holster. Wolf did
yeah,
the same. Rex took off his helmet to talk to Wolf. Wolf took his helmet off as well to talk
yes,
back to Rex. And I don't know if you noticed, but Wolf also didn't have any more TK troopers in a part of his squad anymore. They were all clones that were
right.
behind him at that point.
All clone commandos, and that's why. Because when it was happening, I was like, why aren't they doing anything? Like, why aren't they, questioning? And then the one did, and then it was kind of like they're clones, and they
Yeah.
deserve this respect from us. And I think that was really cool because I think that there's a deep understanding for both these characters. Like Rex understands, obviously he wants Wolf to say fuck the Empire and just join him. All these clones, I'm sure he would have gladly been like, come on the ship. But I think Rex knows and understands that it's different for these clones who have been taught to follow orders and nothing else, and understanding like, mm, let's just give some grace now, and maybe in the future things will go well. And that's kind of where it's really nice as the audience to know from Star Wars Rebels, like,
Mhm.
oh, they do come together, and Wolf eventually does come around, which
Yeah.
love that.
Well, and I mentioned it earlier in Seeds of Rebellion. It's a different kind of rebellion,
Yes.
but this is also planting seeds of rebellion. And
Hmm.
on top of that, like, you can't push somebody to do like in general, anyone, you can't make somebody do something, but you have to
Right.
give them the chance, and then they can choose what they think is best. But it's all about planting those seeds to be like, you don't
Yeah.
have to do something this way just because that's how you've always done it. Like
Yeah.
you still have a choice. You can choose
Mhm.
who you want to be. And he didn't need to force Wolf to come with him in that moment. Everything he did right there, just being like, you still have a choice.
Right.
I know this is how we've been taught, or how it's been ingrained in our heads literally with the fucking chip and in our DNA, to be
Right.
subservient and, to not question orders. But
Mhm.
good soldiers don't always follow orders.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like Crosshair said, defecting is in his blood.
Ugh.
uh, one thing I wanted to mention too is there was a lot of action in this episode
Yeah.
and a lot of moments where it seemed like they weren't going to get out of these situations, like the moments in the
Yeah.
staircase. And I really feel like the stakes in those moments, the fear I felt knowing that they killed off one of the main characters last season, it
Mhm.
really impacts the worry here because it's like, killing off some of these characters this big group isn't above the writers here.
Yeah.
So like nobody's safe, I feel like, and I just kept thinking about that during when watching. I'm like, yeah, like this show has established the fact that nobody's safe here. So when we see all this action and this assassin coming in to attack Teth, and
I mean, the big thing for me was that I wasn't worried about all of the characters. I kept worrying that Crosshair was gonna die. Like
yeah.
the entire episode, I was just like, "Oh god, are they gonna kill Crosshair?" Like the
Hmm.
first time that he fights against the assassin, when they kind of have the shootout, when they're in the like spiral tower between levels, because Crosshair can't shoot for shit anymore. Last
Hmm.
episode, AZ said you're at a 53% accuracy,
Right.
and he hasn't really been able to hit anything. And then,
Hmm.
when they go toe to toe later in the episode, and when the assassin gets to the point of drowning him and holding his head
Oh my
underwater,
god,
and he
yeah.
like stops moving for a second, I
I
was like,
thought he was done for.
I thought he was dead as well. I was like, oh my god, they just killed Crosshair by drowning him on
Right.
screen, was
Yeah.
watching him struggle to breathe. I was like, I saw that this had a violence like warning
Right.
at the beginning, but I was like, I didn't know
Yeah,
that's where
but
we were going.
yeah, that's not very Parents the Bad Batch like we talked about last
No,
episode.
not at all. But you know what is very Parents the Bad Batch?
Huh.
Who's the one to save Crosshair? Hauser. Hauser's the one that shoots the stun
Right.
shot at the clone assassin, and
And
he's
it
the
was
one
the
to.
trust was gained. Yeah.
Yes, because, and I think at that point, Crosshair had proven himself throughout the episode
Yeah.
between, you know, basically holding off the clone assassin for the rest of them escape
Mhm.
twice by this point. And then, Hauser's comments of him being like, I see how you are with the kid. Like
Right.
something's changed within you that wasn't there when I met you on Ryloth.
Yeah. And I talked about last week, we both said we want to see more of that conversation about like how Crosshair truly
Yes.
feels. And we got more of it. And it's those moments I'm like, damn, like this is a good fucking show. Like we are blessed here, and dare I say it's underrated because I just don't see, I mean, I see a lot of hype for it, but it's not the same hype that I've seen for some of these other shows that
Yeah.
in my opinion just weren't up there in the same quality as the Bad Batch. But you know, that just means more for us to enjoy, right?
Exactly. We're Star Wars animation fans way before the Bad Batch came out, and like
Right.
we're just eating good at this point, and everybody else is catching on.
Exactly. Exactly. No, but you brought up what Hauser said about Crosshair and how he interacts with the kid
Hmm.
Omega, and I just love that moment between Crosshair and Omega when he was just giving full on dad mode, cross dad.
Yep.
Some of these
Crossdad.
previous episodes, I thought that everybody has been talking about cross dad. I was getting more cross brother vibes, but cross dad. Just seeing him worried about, you got these supplies, you got your crossbow, you sure you can carry those supplies, and
I know.
him just so worried, and she's like, you're worse than Hunter, and he's like, oh, trust me, I'm worse than Hunter.
Yeah,
I'm much worse.
That was such a funny moment because at first I was like, "Why is he nagging her so much?" And then when
Right.
she was like, "You're worse than Hunter," and he's like, "Oh, I'm much worse." And it was
Yeah.
just like, and then I was like, "Oh my god, he's in like total like dad mode. His paternal instincts have kicked in on like
Yeah.
high gear."
Right.
Um, but mentioning Cross dad, can we also talk about Uncle Echo?
I know. I know. Well, Echo's kind of her dad too. I feel like the whole batch is that those are her dads.
Honestly,
But
yes.
he's the absent one.
He's the dad that left for groceries one day and didn't come back home. He went to the store for cigarettes and
Oh
didn't come back.
no.
Um, but I don't know. Echo's weird. I love Echo. You know, he's one of my favorites, or
Right, right,
he is
right.
my favorite because Tech's dead. Uh,
Mhm.
so,
Right.
but he gives me like way older brother that's like off at college, or like
Yeah.
uncle who comes to visit every now and then, because even specifically in the moment where he gifts her the new crossbow that we
Yep.
saw in the poster that she had yet to get so far, and it replaces the big Zygerian one that she had
Mhm.
had all throughout season 2. What do you think about that moment?
Yeah, that was a great moment. It was very heartfelt because I love knowing that Omega isn't an afterthought because
Hmm.
I recently watched the entire season 1, season 2, season 3 before we started doing Bad Batch.
Oh, you're better than
Um
me.
or I was watching it kind of during season three's release. But either way, I
Okay.
watched the whole thing kind of all together. And there's kind of those moments in season 1 where she is an afterthought just because they genuinely don't know how to handle having a kid around, and
Yeah.
there's moments where she's like offering up her food and Wrecker's like, oh hell yeah, I'll take the food, like
Hmm.
things like that. So it's just nice to see how Omega is kind of everyone in the batch's first thought and first concern, like, oh, Omega needs protection here. And it was cool too because it was like he wanted to upgrade it more and do more to it, but it was
Yeah.
like in this moment, it was a good moment because she needs protection. So, and then that moment too where it's like Echo's like, you need to keep them on track or whatever he says, you need to keep things together. It's like,
And then he makes a joke about like being a soldier or something. I
right,
love that little like thing that they have, because even at the end of season 2 when he goes away and he's like, be a good soldier, and she's like, I will, like
right.
giving him a little salute as he walks away. God, that was heart-wrenching.
I know, I
But it's
know.
but it's so cute. I love them. Uh
Yeah.
I did want to bring it up
Hmm.
because it's me. So in that moment when Omega asks where did Echo get the electro crossbow energy bow,
Hmm.
she's like, "Where did
Yeah.
you get the energy crossbow?" And he's like, "I made a few interesting contacts across the
Right.
galaxy."
He's
And I
been
was
around.
like, who could he have met that would have used a energy bow?
Ooh.
Oh, Asajj Ventress. However,
Hmm.
when I looked it up because I couldn't remember, Night Sister crossbows shoot like a pinkish red laser. This was
Right.
green, but I was like, but it's
But
like Night Sister green.
wasn't
So
there green ones in Jedi Fallen Order?
I looked those up too because I looked at the Night Brother archers, and they're also
Uh,
that like pinkish color.
really? I
Um,
feel like we've seen green bowcasters somewhere though, because it was bothering me when he said that. I'm like, is that supposed to be like a reference to something
I
or
was
like
like, has he met up with Ventress, and that's how she's gonna
right?
come in?
No, Ventress isn't coming in. She was already in this episode. She was on Teth. Remember? Little reference to Clone Wars movie.
Oh, is she taking a nap in the corner?
Yep.
She was out guarding the
Yep.
ships. We just didn't get
Exactly.
a
And she did a horrible job.
Hey, she's back from the dead. Give her some grace. You don't always come back the same at first.
Right, right, right. Oh my gosh, just like the clone assassins, they never come back the same.
No, they're completely devoid of their personality, and oh
So sad.
god.
So sad. But we have the ending moment where they're all on the ship together. Everybody lived. Everybody's good. Everybody's fine. They're escaping.
Mhm.
And at least the main characters that we know of lived. I'm sure there was a few casualties out there.
Well,
But
by the end, I think we have the Bad Batch, we have
uh
Rex, we have Hauser, and then what's the green one's name? I have it in my notes because I literally wrote down all of their names. And like I said at the beginning, I am not a clone girly. I was struggling trying to figure out who was who, trying to
Uh-huh.
figure out these colors in this dark ass episode with these clones. And I was like, okay, that's there's somebody named Samson, there's somebody named Nemec, there's somebody named Hilo,
Nemec was the green one, right?
there was more than
No.
one green one, Fireball. No, Fireball
Mm.
dies because he
All
was
I
the
know
one.
is the designs were hella cool. Like these were some of the coolest looking clones, I think. And I think it's because they're like running out of basic design, so now they have to do like cool shit.
Yeah, they have to do exciting things. Okay. We have Rex, Omega, Batcher, Hunter, Wrecker, Hauser,
Mm-hmm.
Crosshair, and Nemec. So Nemec is alive. Nemec survived this show.
Ah.
Unfortunately, I can't say the same about Andor. R.I.P. Sweet boy.
R.I.P. But yeah, I like that moment at the end, and I feel like now at this point they're all gonna be together now from this point forward. I mean, they might, you know, split apart at some point, but I feel like for the most part, this is the main group core of characters now that we're gonna focus on for these next few episodes. And we get that little tease there where Rex is like, you got to figure out why Omega is so important to them,
Hmm.
and you
Because,
know,
yeah, because at this point we know that Rex, they're trying to find Tantus. Before he
yeah.
even talks to Omega, he also wants to get the clones out of Tantus, so that
Mm-hmm.
automatically aligns them. And on top of that, as Omega's kind of explaining, they're taking all these blood samples from everybody. Nalase
Mm-hmm.
mentioned something about M count. Nobody knows. None of the clones know what M count is, and I'm like, is
Well,
fucking
Rex said he heard of it, and I'm like, oh, did he hear that from like hanging out with Anakin and Obi-Wan so much?
well, we wouldn't know because they don't talk about M count outside of the episode 1. They didn't talk about it in episode 2. However,
Right.
I'm like, how funny would it be if literally Asajj Ventress has to be the one to be like, M count? You don't know what fucking M count
Oh
is?
shit. Yeah,
Who?
the connection,
But
it's all connected.
I know it's like you need somebody who uses the Force. Oh, Ventress, duh.
Right.
Like,
That's
but
gonna be interesting seeing like if it happens, Ventress like referencing midichlorians M count, because like you said, it's never referenced outside of Phantom Menace, Mandalorian, and now Bad Batch.
well, and we haven't heard a Jedi talk about midichlorians. I
Right.
don't think since the Phantom Menace.
Right, right,
I
right.
think it's the
So
only time we've heard a Jedi talk about midichlorians.
mhm.
So,
Yeah. I think after this point it's just gonna be revelation after revelation after that tease. Cause
and
it's like they're
once
trying Hunter's his goal is to figure out what we're wondering, you know?
we're all wondering the same thing.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're along for the ride where we at
Exactly.
least know kind of what Palpatine's doing. We know how to
Mhm.
get to Mount Tantus. Um,
Yeah.
but the poor clones, they're struggling. I hope they find it soon. And on top
Yeah.
of that, I'm just like I hope they figure out what an M count is.
Yeah, yeah, and figure out the whole plan. It's one of those things where it's like, is this going to go well? It can only go so well, right? Because we know that they don't defeat Palpatine, they don't defeat the Empire, and so I don't know what this ending is going to entail. Because, like I said, killing characters is not above them. I don't think everybody's going to make it out, unfortunately.
I don't think so either. I mean, there's some characters that we know because of other media, but
Hmm.
other than that, I mean, even so, I was thinking like, oh, Rex could definitely get shot and wounded and be taken out for a bit.
Hmm. Yeah. Oof.
So,
And that put him into retirement. Yeah.
I mean, that's how he got so overweight.
Right.
Just kidding. That's how he got out of shape. He had to take a little rest.
It's okay. I can relate. I can relate to my clones. So
Same.
they were eating hot Cheetos in that little moving castle thing that they have.
All right, so we've got a lot of clones that we saw in this episode, but I have to ask,
Yes.
who is your standout character this week?
So I know we talked about how we hate him. He's an asshole, but the clone assassin C1X, I think, is what he was referred to as. I I don't know. He was fucked up and an asshole, but he's so interesting. And now I'm so interested to see why he feels so connected. And I kind of feel like all the clone assassins really have something against Crosshair. So I'm really interested to figure out what's going on. I feel like there has to be something deeper than him just being in the room as a failed attempt to become a clone
Yeah.
assassin. I feel like they cloned him to make clone assassins because they're also similar to him. They all move around like him,
They're
like
grumpy.
Crosshair. Yeah, exactly. Using snipers. Like, come on, come
All
on.
they need is
So,
toothpicks.
yeah, exactly. And then they'll be redeemed and happy again. No,
We can
but
only hope.
who's your standout character with these episodes?
So I had to think long and hard about this, but I
Hmm.
think I've decided
Okay.
on Captain Hauser because
Um.
one, he's hot. Two, his he's got teal on his armor, and teal is my favorite color. So
Okay.
hot, teal, and we see him go through an arc in this episode with
True.
Crosshair, and it's really nice. Like I said,
True.
he's ready to fight Crosshair, probably kill him. He's like, "We got
Mhm.
unfinished business, brother." And then
Right.
after, like at the end, he's the one to save him. So we love a character with an arc. So
Yes.
Captain Hauser.
We love our good boy clones. Love them. I thought you were gonna say Senator Chuchi.
I mean, that would have been a
Full
given.
transparency, I thought.
That would have been a given, and I do love her, but
Yeah.
I
I
didn't get
thought her 10
enough.
seconds was gonna be enough for you, but
Well, I did say the stormtrooper in the poncho, for episode
right,
4, so
exactly. So I was like, the
anybody's up for
bar is like
grabs.
right here. So
I'm trying to redeem myself and pick, better characters, but who knows? Next episode,
right,
it'll be like, "I really liked that stormtrooper that had the mud on his helmet." Like,
right. Well, Scotty, we've been jumping around this entire episode and just having a kind of casual conversation. I love it. It's always a highlight talking about Bad Batch with you
yes.
every single week. It makes it
Mhm.
that much more fun watching these episodes and knowing, oh, I get to see what Scotty thought about that or hear them bitch about the costumes.
You or the hair,
The hair.
God
Right, right,
forbid.
right.
Yeah, that was really thoughtful, Austin. I appreciate that. I love talking about the Bad Batch with you too. And
Yeah.
if you enjoy listening to us talk about the Bad Batch, make sure that you follow us on social media at wayseekerspod so you never miss any episodes and any of our Bad Batch content. Thank you all so much for watching, and may the force be with you always.
Bye.